Joining me on the show right now on Beyond Fringe, I'm sitting down with researcher Big Dog. It's an interesting name to say the least, but it's a very clever name as well. Big Dog, welcome to Beyond Fringe. I'm pleasure to have you here. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, I got that nickname because I'm a big dude, and around the hood, either call you big fat ass or big dog. Kind of like was nicer. I liked it better.
I honestly, as a big guy myself, hate being called fat ass. I'd be like, "What'd you just say to me, bitch?"
Yeah, yeah. So big dog kind of stuck, and kind of carried on into the Bigfoot world. So, we just leave it like that.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. I mean, listen, everybody has their names, their way to want to go by, and that's always a good thing. And you talk about Bigfoot, and that's what we're going to be discussing this evening. But before we even get started talking about some cryptid stuff, I want to ask a little bit about you. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, bud?
Yeah, I'm 48. Um, I live out in close to Houston, Texas. Um, let's see, just I've always been fascinated by the subject of any cryptids. Being a kid in school, I was always drawn to all the UFO books and the sea monster books and Bigfoot stuff, and that's always kind of got my attention. And anything that had anything to do with Bigfoot, I would watch on TV. My buddies would give me a hard time because we'd be fixing to go out, and if there was something Bigfoot on, they were like, "Oh no," and they would sit there and, "Come on, man, it's not real. Let's go." Kind of gave me a hard time, and it was weird because I can never remember what show it was, but there was one where they were out in Sam Houston, and that freaked me out because like everyone else, we think Bigfoot is out in California, not in Texas, and not even at the Sam Houston National Forest. uh and I remember it was two cops, and they had an encounter, and these people took them back and to kind of relive it and explain what happened. And it was crazy because one of the cops started freaking out because I guess there was movement in the woods, and he pulled out his gun and started shooting off into the trees. And I'm like, "Whoa, this dude's freaking out!" I mean, for someone who's trained with weapons and stuff, for them to freak out like that, it had to be real, because I mean, you would a civilian or whatever, to somebody with no gun training would do something crazy like that. And so that kind of just piqued my interest. And ever since then, I've been kind of hooked on Bigfoot. You want me to go into like my sighting or?
Yeah, we'll go into it. But momentarily, though, I want to ask you this though, because clearly, when I've interviewed law enforcement in the past, I've always asked them about suspicion, like because that's what you're trained to do as an officer. You're going to look at and you see something, and you're going to take it as a threat, especially with civilians. Now, taking for granted, considering the current day trend and situation with law enforcement, you would think even as a regular officer that would just be a normal instinct. So seeing something like that obviously would have terrified this guy, because I remember I interviewed a couple people in reference to Bigfoot sightings who were former veterans in law enforcement, and they even told me that even though they were in a car and they were almost ready, if they had seen that this was an actual human being, it was ready to draw on their weapon, but they were terrified. But also too, they were in a vehicle, so this person was outside and saw this, so there's a difference right there. And because if
Right.
anything, this person could have easily, well, let's just say it was somebody with a human being who had a weapon on him, and this cop didn't pull out his gun and something happened. If it was a human, that's the kind of example I'm trying to throw at, and I think is like, wow. But I want to ask you though, now going into it. So from following that to, you also have had some experience as well, encounters wise. Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, it started off about 2012. uh, I'd say May 2012, 19. That's when I had my sighting. So maybe a couple weeks before, I had met up with a cousin that he had taken a picture next to a Bigfoot track up in Mount Rainier. And I was like, whoa. And I sent him a private message. Hey, man, is that a Bigfoot track? And he's like, yeah, I got it up in, St. Mount Rainier out in Washington. And he kind of told me about what was going on. And I was like, whoa, man, I always wanted to go Bigfoot hunting, man. That's so cool. And he's like, well, I met up with some guys out here in East Texas. Um, and we're going to go check out some game cams and change the batteries on them game cams. If you want to come, that'd be cool. And I was like, heck yeah, man, I am down. I am down for that. But I haven't been out in the woods since my father passed away when I was like 11. So I didn't know really what to do or what to pack or what to take. And I mean, I didn't know. So I started asking him. I was probably annoying him because I kept texting him all day. Hey, shit, can I bring this? Can I bring that? Can I? And I always wear shorts and tennis shoes all the time. And he's probably like, you need to get some boots or something. So I went to the surplus store, bought me some brand new combat boots. I went and bought me some tactical pants, and I was dressed all in black. And um, that's not something you want to wear when it's like 150 degrees out in Texas. But I didn't think of that, so I just thought I'd look cool. And um, so before he came and picked me up, I had armed myself, because everybody in Texas is, got a license. Well, most people got a license to carry and everything, and it was mostly because there's a lot of hogs and predator type creatures out there. You got cougars, stuff like that. Um, so yeah, but I took a little extra because I knew we were going out there to search for a freaking giant man that could be a savage. I didn't know what to expect. So, I carried one on each side, like cowboy style, thinking I was super cool, dressed all tactical and everything. So the new boots, they kind of, walking around in the woods with brand new army boots is not a good deal. So we get out there and we meet up with Brandon Garrett, and they're like, all right, man, we're gonna go check out this area where there's been some sightings. And we just drive and we just kind of pull over on the side of the road. I mean, there's no parking lot, no nothing. We just pull over, and I was like, oh, okay, this is weird. And I don't really know my cousin that well, and I don't know Brandon Garrett. And I'm like, man, I hope nothing's, I hope everything's on the up and up. And so there was four of us out there, and we start walking around in there, and we're out in Fostoria. That's not too far from Sam Houston, and so we get to walking, and we find a track. Probably about maybe an hour or so in, but it was just one track. And so I looked at it, and I was like, man, this is crazy, man. There's one track out in the middle of the woods. I'm like, this, how's it's so weird to just find one track. There was, I walked all around looking for another track, and I'm like, well, then we started thinking, well, I started saying, well, maybe it's using the trees, kind of like the predator or whatever, just going from tree to tree. The track wasn't super big. It was probably about size of, same size as my foot. And I thought it was kind of strange. So I'm thinking, well, I hope these guys aren't really messing with me, since I'm kind of the new guy and, you know, uh, I don't even mess around in the woods. So we get to walking further in, and I'm already kind of like suspicious, thinking these guys are going to kind of scare me at any moment. But I'm thinking, why would they do that? Because, I'm heavily armed. And so we get to one camera, and they changed the SD card and put new batteries in there. And they're like, all right, man, we got to keep moving. And man, I think we walked around about 6 miles that day. And we we we're just walking around, and I remember thinking, "Oh my God, my feet are killing me, man. It's it's 150 degrees. The temp is just I'm thirsty. I mean, I bought some water. I even bought me one of those what they call them, camel packs, where you put the water on your back and you have a little straw. And but man, I already drank that thing all up. And so we're walking, and my cousin's in the front. There's Brandon, and then my cousin's son is in front of me, and I'm all the way in the back. And we come around this little, I guess, around the corner. There's not really a corner in the woods, but my cousin sees uh, a Bigfoot standing behind a tree, and it ducks straight down. Well, I didn't see it when he goes, "There's one right there," and he's got a camera around his neck, and he's fumbling around with his camera trying to get it on and trying to take a picture. And I'm thinking to myself, in my head, I'm like, "Oh, here we go. It's showtime. They're gonna try to freak me out." And I start looking around, thinking, "Hey, maybe they got one of their buddies to he's gonna come up behind me and scare me or something." And then my cousin starts running towards that bush, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh man, this is getting good." I mean, he's running towards this bush to where alleged Bigfoot is hiding, and as he's running towards it, I start looking at the bush, and when that happens, this hand starts coming out from the side, and it's a big old hand, and I'm looking at the fingers, and the fingers were like really fat, almost like it was wearing like a catcher's mitt that they cut all the string off or whatever. And I mean, the thumb and the fingers were real fat, and then it starts coming out from behind this bush, and you can see the hair coming off of it. It's probably about 3 to 4 inches long, and this huge forearm, and this thing is, and I'm looking at it, and it's like kind of like that Oz effect where everything in the whole world is slow motion. I mean, I don't even see my cousin running towards it. All I'm seeing is this hand coming out, and then I start to see the elbow, and then there's a tree next to it. It's probably anywhere from 8 to 9 inches thick. It wasn't that big, probably about that big. And the hand puts it grabs that tree with the thumb facing down, and it's starting to stand up. But I'm still freaking out about the hand. And I remember the hair was really shiny, where it looked like it just came from the salon. And and then when I started to look further up to its shoulder, it stood up and turned around, and it went like almost down to all fours. Well, I didn't know what it did. I just saw it stand up. It looked like it stood up and went down real quick, and I didn't realize what it was doing. I thought it was still there, but it had stood up, went down on all fours, and ran off into the woods. And when it did that, it did not make one sound. It looked like a cartoon, especially how fast it moved. That I didn't think it was real, and I was thinking to myself, how did they do that? And I said, man, that was a big dude, whoever that was, and he was really fast. And then I started thinking to myself, I don't think that was a dude. I don't think they know that guy. And so I'm just sitting there trying to figure it out, because I forgot to say that before we even went into the woods, I was thinking to myself, oh, I'm the biggest, baddest dude here out of all these guys, because I didn't really know him that well. And before that, I've, been in all sorts of fights, and, I never really was really scared of anybody, um, um, so I was thinking, oh, there's nobody in this, there's nothing that's gonna scare me. Well, as soon as I saw that thing turn around and run, I don't know where that tough guy went. He was gone, because the only person that was sitting there was this little girl, dude. I wanted to go home. I didn't want nothing to do with this stuff anymore. I was done. And I was thinking to myself, man, hold on, maybe it's like suggestive thought, because he said that there was a Bigfoot there, that he put that in my mind, and that's what I saw. And I said, that's what happened. That's what happened. And I said, well, let's try to verify it. So I'm gonna ask my cousin some, what he saw and what color it was, and hopefully he says he saw a polar bear that was bright purple, and that wouldn't match up to what I saw. So that means I imagined it. And he was all excited. He was like, "Oh man, that was crazy," and all this. And he goes, "What's wrong?" I guess I had this look on my face, like I was freaked out. And he goes, "What's wrong?" And I go, "Hey, what color was it?" He goes, "It was all black." And I went, "Oh crap." He goes, "What?" I said, "I saw it." He goes, "Really? You saw it too?" And I was like, "Yeah." And them guys were acting like I had just got my cherry popped, and they were all high fiving each other. "All right, man, he saw it." And I was like, "No, man, let's go." And they're like, "What? Come on, guys, let's get out of here, man. I don't want to be in here no more, man. I want to go home." They're like, "Hey, man, calm down. We're gonna be all right." And I was like, "Nah, man, I want to get out of here. I don't want to do this no more. This is not what I thought." I didn't think these things were real, man. I said I was interested, but I didn't think these things were real. I don't want to be in these woods no more. And they're like, hey, calm down, bro. If we gotta drag you out of here, it's gonna be like hell because you're so damn big. I was like, man, I don't care, man. I want to get out of here. And they're like, look, man, there's one more camera we gotta check, and then we'll get out of here. And I was like, no, I don't want to check this other camera. I'm done. And they're like, all right, man, just calm down. Everything's gonna be all right. So they finally calmed me down. I drink some water. I'm like, and then Brandon, the guy I was talking about earlier, he's never really even talked to me this whole trip. And now he's got pictures on his phone. He's showing me, he's telling me stories about how they chased him out of the woods. He's freaking me out more. I'm like, hey, bro, you're freaking me out with these Bigfoot stories. And then he's like, yeah, man, we had one chasing us, and it was throwing throwing branches at us and rocks. And I was like, man, I hope that don't happen here, man. So we finally start making our way to the other camera, and we start walking through one of those pipelines where they have it cleared, and they have all the telephone lines or whatever. So we start walking through there, and it was probably a real bad idea because I was no longer in the shade. I was starting to boil. It was freaking hot. My feet were killing me. And we finally make it to the other camera, and they're changing the batteries. And by this time, I'm freaking paranoid, man. I'm just like looking around. They're like, "Hey, man, calm down." I'm like, "Man, I just want to hurry up and go, man. I don't want to do this no more." And they're like, "All right, we're almost done." So they change the batteries. They do everything they need to do, and they start coming up with different ideas how to angle the camera. I'm like, "Yo, I thought we were leaving." They're like, "Just hold on, man." And so we finally started heading back. Well, since I was the biggest out of shape person, I started lagging behind. Even though I was scared, um, these guys are all slim and trim, and work out and go to the gym, so they're just like cruising, man. They're leaving me behind. And but I had one of those Under Armour shirts that when you start sweating, it's supposed to cool you down. Um, so I took off my regular T-shirt and I poured water on it and I put it on top of my head, and I started walking. And these guys are just turning into little tiny ants because they're leaving me behind. And as I was walking, I started hearing something walking on my left side, and I was like, I kind of like peek a little bit, but my peripheral vision was pretty much gone because I had that T-shirt over my head. And I'm walking, I take a couple steps, and I hear it like dragging its feet through the leaves, and then it steps on a branch and it cracks it, and that's when I stop walking, and it will take like two more steps, and I was like, oh crap, it's back. and I start looking, and I don't see anything because it's summer, and the it's pretty thick when it's summer out there, and I'm just looking and staring, and I'm like, oh man, I said maybe I'm freaking out, I'm imagining this, I got to get out of here. So uh, I started taking a couple more steps, and it started walking. I could hear it. And by this time, I start going into mall walking. You ever seen them old ladies in the mall when they're cruising?
All the time. Yes, I do. I know what you mean.
So I'm moving, man. I'm going. And they turn around because every now and then they turn around and look back at me, and they see that my face is a little different this time. And I look a little worried, and I'm cruising, and they're like, "Oh, hold on." They give each other a signal to stop, so they're like, "Hey, what's up, man? What's going on?" I was like, "Bro, there's something walking around over here on this side. Every time I take a step or whatever, it'd take a couple steps and then it would stop." And then Brandon goes, "Oh yeah, man, they do that." And I was like, "Okay, bro. Everything you know about Bigfoot, I need to know now because I don't need no more surprises and all this stuff." And they're kind of cracking up. They're like, "Oh man, come on, dude, we're gonna be all right." Um, so I'm like, dude, I can't walk anymore. My feet are just obliterated with these brand new combat boots on, and I'm overheating, and everybody starts giving me their water. I'm sitting in the shade, and I unzip my boots, and trying to get air in there and trying to just sit down for a little while. And so my other cousin's like, look, we're gonna walk to the cars. We're gonna go get the cars, and we're gonna meet you at the end of this pipeline. There's a road that's gonna cross. We'll be there and pick you up, and then we'll head back. We'll head home. I was like, no, man, you can't leave me here. And they're like, no, you're gonna stay with your other cousin, and we're gonna go. We're gonna run to go get the cars. We're gonna get them as fast as we can. I was like, okay, because I know that there's a squatch sitting in them right across that pipeline. He's sitting on the other side. He's got to be watching us. So then I started asking my cousin, like my other cousin, I'm like, so how'd you get into, Bigfoot? And she was like telling me a story about that happened to him when he was out in Washington. And he said basically he was living in a log cabin out there, or some kind of cabin. I don't know if it was made out of logs. It was a cabin. and and he said he would hear him screaming off in the distance, but he didn't ever really think nothing of it. Well, there was one day where these things were really close to the house, and they were screaming, and dogs were freaking out, and everybody was kind of bunched up in the middle of the house, and they just didn't know what was going on, why these things were bothering them. And as he's telling me this story, on the right side we get this creepy whistle, and I think he heard that noise before or something, because his face changed, and he stood up, and he's like, let's move, like Terminator or something. I was like, okay. So I start zipping up my boots, and he's like, hurry up, and I'm like trying to stand up and and uh and get out of there. So now that when we start walking, we're getting paralleled on both sides, and they are not being sneaky anymore. I think the guy on the left started getting a little braver because his buddy on the right was there, and they're just like stepping on branches, crushing stuff. You can hear them dragging their feet, and yeah, it was pretty nerve wracking because it's just me and another dude, and this is during the day. This is in the middle of the day, and yeah, but the closer we got to the main road, they seemed to have back off. And man, I was so happy to see that road because I was freaking, I was scared, man. I was like, man, I don't know if these things are just gonna come out and rip us apart, or whatever. I was thinking, man, I should have just been watching shows on TV from the safety of my couch. I don't know why I had to. I felt like I was you know, checking out the sharks in the ocean without a shark cage now. If that makes any sense. I felt like I was in the water with them. And yeah, the closer we got to the road, they backed off, and I was so happy to see that black top, even though that road was 150 degrees. I went over there and got on top of it and gave it a big old kiss because I was freaking out. And so we just kind of sat there on the side of the road and waiting. And my cousin finally pulls up, uh, and he's like, "Hey, you guys want a sandwich?" I was like, "Man, I want to get out of here. Let's go." And I was like, "Well, wait a minute. What kind of sandwich you talking about here?" So yeah, I got my sandwich and we got out of there, man. And that's when I went and met Bob Garrett, and he told me all kinds of creepy stories. And I told myself, you know what? I'm probably never gonna do this again. This was too much. So needless to say, my cousin called me about a month later and said, "Hey, we're going back to change the batteries and SD cards. You want to go?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's go." So the whole way there, man, I was thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? So every time I do something where I go looking for these things, I'm always thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing here? It was pretty freaky, man. I mean, I know some people got scarier encounters than that, but yeah, mine was pretty freaky to me.
Let me be honest with you. First of all, just want to backtrack on something because one of the crazy things about when you have your first cryptid encounter, not everybody I know for those out there who've seen one or hear about them. Me personally, I've never seen one, but I do keep an open mind. I've interviewed thousands who have given a different opinion on that, and has made me build a bigger foundation on what they could be. Also, besides reading books, and like you started off working. Not working. You basically, when you're growing up, you started looking into all these books and stuff at school. That was the same thing with me. But one thing I was going to say too is that I don't think anybody's excited to see one of these things. So having that natural reaction of just fear and intimidation, and don't get me wrong, I mean I'm a big guy myself too. So I mean you're talking 250 pounds of somebody who is no match against the 600-pound creature that you thought existed in films. Like just literatures and crap like that. And yeah, I would be extremely terrified. And I think for you as one, was there ever a point in time in your after that experience where you thought, man, what did I really see? Or were you in some format of denial or had a format of PTSD on what you had encountered?
I still do. I mean, if my cousin wouldn't have seen it too to confirm it, I would have always thought that it was just my imagination. I would have just been like, you know what? I didn't see that. Um, there's no way that was real. I would have somehow tried to rationalize it where it was that one of their friends running off. Um, and if it was one of their friends, I mean, he still hasn't to this day show, you know, said it was him. Um, but yeah, and the weird thing, you remember how I talked about how I was heavily armed? That the last thing in my mind was those two guns. I mean, I just felt like I didn't have anything for them. It would have been, I might as well have been carrying an airsoft guns. I just felt like I wouldn't have been able to do any damage to it. So, but that was the last thing I even thought about was hurting it. I mean, I felt like I was the one that was probably gonna get hurt. So yeah, and as far as PTSD, yes, I had nightmares from it. Yeah, a lot of crazy nightmares, and it was so weird that after it happened, it was like all I talked about, and I talked about it to people that weren't even into the subject. I mean, I wouldn't shut up about it. It'd be all the guys at work were tripping out, like, "Shut up already," you know. But they believed me because they knew me long enough to, know that if I was, lying or not, or being joke, telling a joke, because I do tell lots of jokes or whatever, and clown on people and stuff. But they knew it was bothering me because it was, a bunch of times I just wouldn't shut up about it, and it got so bad that we'd go out to eat, and my little sister was just like, she was probably the first one I text when I said they are real. I saw one, and she's like, "Oh my God, are you serious?" We text back and forth, and we'd go out to eat, and they'd be like, "Yes, sir. Can I take your order? What would you like to drink?" And I'd be like, "I saw a Bigfoot," and my sister's like, "Oh, here we go again." I mean, it was that bad, and I was finally able to stop talking about it to people that weren't into it. A lot of people were like, "What are you smoking?" Um, you know, and I still have people to this day uh make fun of me. As a matter of fact, I had a dude today, making lots of jokes because I have a huge truck and I call it the Yeti, and it has Bigfoot stickers all over it. It's got a custom grill with a squatch right there in the middle, surrounded with spikes. I mean, I guess you could. I mean, I was into it before, but now it's like I'm obsessed with it. So it just took it to a whole new level after seeing it, and I kind of want to see it another one. Which I went to New Mexico a couple years later. I was doing a Bigfoot convention. Well, I was going to a Bigfoot convention with some friends, and I saw something running up a mesa, and looked it looked like a freaking cartoon. It didn't look real. The arms, it looked like in the corner, and it looked like a dune buggy trying to go up straight up a mesa. It was black, and the arms looked like Sonic the Hedgehog, how he spins on both sides, and that's why I just kind of like thought, oh wow. I looked at it real quick, and I was just like, I didn't really click to what I was seeing, and the only reason why I don't even really consider that like one of the best sightings I ever had. But the only thing that confirms it for me is that I took a nap in my truck, and when I woke up, I saw these people that I knew with these huge binoculars, and they were looking, and I was like, I went over there. I go, "What are y'all looking at?" And it said a Bigfoot ran up that mesa about an hour ago. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I grabbed the binoculars. It's still around the lady's neck, and she's like, "Ugh." And I looked, and the ground was tore up. I mean, it would have been hard for me to actually get to the mesa to look. Go. I wanted to, but it was on someone else's property, and and it was just so crazy. But I had another Bigfoot experience when I was out there. I don't know if you know who Brenda Harris is.
Yeah, I know who Brenda is.
Okay, so I went squatching with her. Uh, I think it's the San Juan River out there, and we went to a couple spots, and we were sitting in this one spot, and they throw rocks, big rocks in the water, and it gives it that splashy noise, and so we did that for a while, but I didn't know they had beavers in New Mexico, and so we started hearing something walking around in the water. And then you would hear whoosh, splash, and she's like, "I think that's a squatch. I think." And I was like, "Oh man!" And the river kind of went around this little corner, and I'm thinking, "Man, that bad boy is just sitting right there on the other side of this corner." So I'd throw a rock in, and I'd sit there and wait, and then it would splash. I guess it was slapping its tail on the water. I guess, and then it got quiet, and then we started seeing like this. Uh, it looked like its head was out of the water, and I was like, man, I don't know, dude. We've been here waiting here for like an hour. We've been doing this for an hour already, and I'm ready to just show yourself already, dude, so I can go home. And I think somebody she had night vision. She had a night vision camera. That's what it was. And she had it strapped around her neck, and she's like, "I think I see its head. It's in the water." And I'm like, "Let me see." I got a bad habit of ripping binoculars and night visions out people's hands, and so I'm trying to look, and I was like, "Man, it does look like a head." And I was like, "You know what? Everybody shine their light," and we all shined our light, and I was looking at it real good. I was taking pictures with my phone, and then I was like, "Wait a minute." And it turns around, looks, and I go, "That's a beaver, man." So I was like, oh man. So I was all bummed out, but I mean, it was like really intense before, because I was thinking, oh, here's my chance to see another one or whatever, get to see something. So she's like, I know another spot we can go to, and I don't know if you ever been to New Mexico, but it gets like really cold at night. And being a Texas boy, it's just hot all the time over here. So I wear my shorts and t-shirts all the time over here. So we get over there, I'm cold, I'm miserable, I'm hungry, I'm tired, because we're driving back to Texas the next day, and we went to another spot where the river was really wide, and I get kind of like diva-ish whenever I'm going through all that stuff, and they're throwing this big boulders in the water and splash, and then everybody gets quiet, and we listen and listen, and they did that about 3 times, and I'm just sitting in the back of the truck. You know how like when your girl's mad and she don't want to talk to nobody, she'll kind of go sit off. So that's what I was doing. I was just sitting there like this, and I was so annoyed. And I was looking across the river, and there was some trees on the other side, and all of a sudden I hear like something going through these branches, like being thrown through the trees, and the boulders hitting all these branches on the way out. And right in the middle, I'm sitting there looking right across, and right on the other side, this rock comes from the other side of the river and goes boosh, and it was bigger than any rock that we've thrown. And I was like, "Hold up! Who threw that? Who threw that? Who did that? Who did that?" And everybody's like, "Not me, not me." And I said, "Shine that other side of the everybody shine your lights." And we start shining on the other side of the river. Man, there was probably about 4 of them sitting there. There was one that went down this way, one that went down another way, and one that went straight down. And then there was one that was just like mad dogging us. And I was like, oh man, let's get out of here. I said, this is too much. It's already late. Well, I guess early in the morning. I said, nah, man, let's get out of here. So we took off. And yeah, that was a crazy night. So they're running around in New Mexico.
There's a lot of reports over in New Mexico too, depending on the certain region. And on top of that, I mean, we've often, as some of the reports I've often heard about, you have those ones that'll often look at you, observe you, stalk you, mimic some things, and go out and do a couple antics or crap like that that would just make the person feel as much uncomfortable. That night when you had that first encounter with the hand, stuff like that. Tactics like that, I guess, that would showcase that you're in their territory and that they'll do whatever they want with you. And even for one instance, too, I know that there was a guy who had these tree knocks and all of these like wild like situations that just kind of played into focus. And he was, I don't know if normally when you're in the woods, you'll get that like that intimidated feeling where you're like almost like, wow, am I like, what is something? There's something has to be something else here, and you feel like you're
Yeah.
being watched. And that happens a lot of people. That's exactly what happened. And then you see something duck its head through under the tree line, and I'm like, whoa, like what? And it comes, that person ends up getting so freaked out by it, and it's like, wow, that really just happened. And it's like, what did I even see? That thing looks creepy, and it's all black and stuff, and you definitely get that intimidation factor. You get that fear factor. Um, that's just kind of the whole benefactor of everything. But I want to ask you this, though, in reference to the whole situations. Um, so you have these encounters, you go out and you investigate with other investigators. As all of these encounters have happened, has it shaped your perception so much on the discovery of Bigfoot, what it is and stuff? Like, has it treated you in your perception, giving you a much more clearer mind on what these things are and they exist versus not having that kind of mindset in the beginning?
Yeah, I feel like they've been here for a long, long time, and just they've always been around. Since we were young. Mankind or humans. But yeah, I think they've been here long before us, and I guess them um just avoiding us. Especially now how things are. Um, But yeah, it has changed because before I just thought it was some spooky gorilla or something running around in the woods that wasn't intelligent at all, you know. Um, but because now it's hard to, I guess, because we don't have one. Um, they've been avoiding us for so long, so I just figured they're way, way, way more intelligent, especially in their environment. Now, I don't think they could build an airplane or pay taxes or balance their checkbook, but I think when you're in their area, you know, they they can show, they can avoid us big time. I mean, and listening to like other people's encounters and stuff, you just start to get bits and pieces, like you said. You've talked to lots of people, so you kind of like learn like their behavior, or stuff that they would do just from hearing bits and pieces from everybody's encounters. And I have people that talk to me about talk to me about Bigfoot or even other stuff, but a lot of, especially when I go to like like Bigfoot events and stuff like that, and get to talking to other people, or even on Facebook, um, just kind of learning, about their behavior. But yeah, it has changed. It went from a dumb ape to a super duper smart creature.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the big things we're in now in the field, where we're trying to find all these answers to it, but we don't know. And I wanted to ask you too, like, what is your overall opinion on what a Bigfoot could be? Like, what do you think it is?
I just think it's like I said, just something that's been here for a long time, and just like I guess the Native Americans back in the day used to trade with them, and um, just kind of been alongside with us, you know. Um, like my girlfriend is Navajo, and she doesn't like the idea of me going looking for them or whatever. She's like, no, you're supposed to just leave them alone. That kind of just makes me think, is is that what they were taught? Just to just leave them alone. I mean, she'll send me pictures. Just recent, it snowed out in New Mexico, and she sends me pictures of tracks in her backyard, and she's cool with that. Oh yeah, yeah, they come around. We don't mess with them. They don't mess with us. I'm like, wow. Lucky I don't live out there. I'd be freaking with all my equipment and stuff all the time. It'd be crazy. I mean, I've been meaning to get out there to go check it out, but they've been around.
The reason why I ask is because often a lot of people distinguish it between it being a format of something from the supernatural perspective, that they're like some sort of demonic type creature. But I also go back to Native American folklore. I go back to, we speak about Navajo, or in general any other tribe, Cherokee, that speak of the tales of Bigfoot. I know that a family member of mine, she's never been very spoken about Bigfoot. She knows of Bigfoot, but never ever says go out and find one, go out and try to search or track one down, because they want to be left alone. Very similar to what your girlfriend had mentioned to you, but there's so much more to the case. And I'm not saying that everybody who's an investigator going out there is trying to hunt one down, trying to kill one, trying to get an answer to their proof or to their research, but it's about the idea that, I guess, it's like these things intrigue people. It intrigues me. I wouldn't be here
Yeah.
doing a show, as you wouldn't be here sitting interviewing and talking about your Bigfoot experiences and investigations, had this not interested us. And that is the whole format of why we still continue to do this. And I personally really do like and praise a lot of the perception of what you're saying and how you go about it, because you got to have some format of personality getting into this type of stuff. And any type of field, paranormal, UFO, because this is stuff you can't talk about with normal people. You said it yourself. When you're talking, when you're with friends or with anybody, you know, I'm pretty sure you can't really tell everybody, hey guys, I saw this Bigfoot. It was crazy. You know, it was just a whole wraparound type thing. And they look at you like you had 8 heads. I had a personal buddy of mine tell me about his dog man experience. And he said to him, I was like, he broke down crying to me. He was scared. He literally ran out of the woods, very similar to you, terrified, had a look on his face like, what did I just see? So these creatures do have an impact on people, especially eyewitnesses, and to even go out and try to find one and investigate and find answers to it. I also give a lot of praise to those eyewitnesses turned investigators, because to go back, it's like overcoming your fear in a way.
Oh yeah.
It's you overcome your the thing that scares you the most, and you're facing it, and it's like, wow. And then you go out and then you found two at one point in your first report. Next thing you know, you have four in one of your investigations. You're like, what the hell, man, you know? So I have to really praise that about you as well too. And when I mean praise, I don't want to come off as if it's like sounding richening or greedy. It's just more of like, because it's not. I don't really interview a lot of eyewitnesses that turn investigators that try to find answers. It's hard for them, you know. PTSD. That's why I asked. So, in Texas though, have there been other hotspots that you have investigated or taken a look at that might have been Bigfoot activity? What are some pretty interesting locations wise in that region, if there is?
Well, see, one of my favorite spots was out in Sam Houston, so East Texas area. But I got a lot of friends that live, more south in Beeville, in areas like that, towards Victoria. And I even heard some going on in San Antonio. I haven't been out to any of these spots yet, but we do keep in touch. And if, but so Sam Houston is where I go the most whenever I want something to happen. Or there was actually one time I got off of work, and like I said, I have this Yeti truck, and I got it set up where if I just want to go camping, I just jump in it, turn the key, and it's got everything I need in the bed. So there was one time I went right after work, drove off to Sam Houston, called up Brandon and his brother and another guy, asked them if they just wanted to come just chill. Hunting season was starting, and they're like, yeah, cool. So we know when hunting season just starts, there's gonna be a ton of people. But I just needed some woods. Because in my type of work, there's just deadlines, deadlines, deadlines. You got to get stuff done. You don't have time to really even. I just come home, sleep, go get up, go back to work, and just try to get stuff done. So I just jumped in that truck this one weekend, and we headed out, and we get some food going in the fire. And so we're just sitting around talking, and man, these things to get to howling and screaming behind us, and I'm just like, oh, come on, guys, I'm not here for this. And my buddy's trying to get his camera. He goes out and starts running towards the noises. I'm just sitting by the fire, just like, man, I just want to relax. I don't want any of these things running around. It was so crazy though, because you can hear them screaming and howling and hooting and making all their noises, and then further out you could hear like some other ones screaming and making similar noises, but they were kind of like communicating. And we were not even that close from the road. I mean, we were close to the road is what I mean, and there was a lot of people around. And it was funny because I was just looking at other hunters, people that was just sitting drinking beer and chilling. They just ignore that noise completely. I can send you that video where I'm just sitting next to the. It's only like 20 seconds because well, there's actually a couple videos, but they're all like 20 seconds long or whatever, because they would howl for a little while and then they would stop for like 5 minutes and then they would start again. So I felt like I was just um wasting my time recording this when I didn't take my recorder. Like I said, I wasn't out trying to Bigfoot. I was just going try to you know, sit by the fire, hang out with some friends, and just relax. But yeah, these things got to making all that noise, and it's just like, oh. And it was crazy because in the middle of the night, I finally went and crashed out, and I got a big fold-out tent on top of that truck. and I'm sitting there crashing out. Well, there was a couple campers further down. They brought some horses, and I guess they brought them in when I was sleeping because I could hear them walking around, and I was like, "Oh my God, those squatches got mad because I was yelling at them earlier." And then I start unzipping the window to look out, and I hear. I was like, "Oh man, that's just a horse."
Imagine that if it was a Bigfoot, though. I mean, how freaked out would you be?
Well, he had to be really tall because my truck's lifted up pretty high, and when I have that tent folded out and everything, it's almost the same height as a two-story window. So yeah, I would be freaked out if I unzipped that window and he's just kind of just like messing with me.
You know, man, I have to say one thing. There had been one report. I remember there was a guy. He had and I don't know how if I don't even know if it was ever proven to be a genuine piece, but I remember I saw make airways on the internet a long time ago. It was a video of a guy who had filmed a Bigfoot through his tent, and it was just looking right at him square in the eye, and it was pretty interesting because you get a good visual on the face. It's really hard to make out if it's a guy in an ape mask or if it is a guy if it's just a gorilla outfit to begin with. You only see the face, but you see this face looking at this guy through this tent, and I often find it incredible too because I remember when I did smaller investigations, we'd never find anything. But I know for some people who are in bigger Bigfoot territory, because where I'm at, I'm on the East Coast, so there are certain locations where we can find Bigfoots. However, at the same time, it's like I remember when I was interviewing somebody, and just to go by example, it's like if you go into the area with your mindset thinking it's Bigfoot, you're not going to find nothing. And see, a lot of the people I was with would often think that, and on top of that, I wasn't one of them. I'd try to, I know what I wanted to look for, but I wasn't trying to force it, and that was the big difference. And so wherever we would go, we wouldn't really find it. Not saying that like they have that thing where it's like if you know that if people know that they're thinking about them, they're going to show up or something, but it's not like it was priority, but also too when you're in a hot spot and then you're in an area where there's a bunch of activity, that's a very freaky experience as well. And I would always want to be there in a tent if you ever happen to see and hear things going on, because these things love campsites so much.
Hmm.
Campsites are their go-to.
Yeah, man. What I would advise, and I've always had best luck at, is when you go out looking for Bigfoot, don't go out looking for Bigfoot.
I 100% agree. I mean, listen, I think I want to ask. That was one of my questions I was going to ask you too. Was about like, what is your normal advice you'd give to somebody who is beginning as an enthusiast turned wants to be an investigator, or someone who has never been out in the woods before but wants to find Bigfoot? What would be some of the advice you'd give them?
Well, I would say hook up with some people that are pretty reputable. And if they, especially if they've been out in the woods a lot, they'll know uh, what plants are dangerous because I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that can hurt you if you don't know what you're doing. Um, just with somebody with knowledge of the woods, and just keep an open mind. But at the same time, like you said, everything ain't Bigfoot. Every shadow is not going to be a Bigfoot. And I guess what kept me going is I started having a good time doing it. We're hanging out with people and getting to know them, and it was just like creating a bond. Because I'm a guy who saw a big gorilla in the woods, and now I'm hanging out with another guy who saw a big gorilla in the woods somewhere else. And there's that therapy. But yeah, just hang out with somebody that knows what they're doing, and listen to what they say. But at the same time, have a lot of questions, and just learn as much as you can. Be open minded about stuff, and come up with your own theories. Don't be a robot and just everything that one guy tells you is fact. You know, question stuff. And because you get some people that are into the woo, you get some people that are flesh and blood. I mean, there's some of the stories that I hear, I just start scratching my head, like, I mean, that's kind of weird. Bigfoot just disappeared when they shot at it. I mean, you shoot at me, I'm pretty good at disappearing. But yeah, just have an open mind.
Exactly, man, and that's why I always tell people, even on my show, like, look, don't always listen to what other people say. Just because one might be a celebrity or two, or might have a better bit knowledge on that other person, don't mean that they're always right. Some people, I've met investigators who have said that they've been doing this for like 20 plus years, but they're wrong on some things, and it's only because they don't. When you're put in that equation for the longest time, where you get a lot of people who follow you and say, listen, we love your stuff, and then they go ahead and they just format this BS where it's like a narcissist effect almost. And I'm not trying to bring into anybody, I'm not trying to bring anybody down, because I respect even my enemies, but uh, I will say is that it's like a toxic thing. It's like a cancer in the community, because I feel that there is a division belt. And not to get into anything political or controversial, but I did want to ask you this: what is your overall opinion on the uses of social media? Do you think it's beneficial for people in the cryptic community to use it as a way of networking, to whether it's investigations or to connect with other eyewitnesses, or is it a bad tool where it's easy for people to get a hold of their ego or their reputation and get a whole audience in front of them and those type of measures? Do you think social media is good or bad for the cryptid community?
Well, I think it's both. And I think it also depends on the individual. Now, if like I've connected with lots of people that I respect even to this day, as far as their opinions, and a lot of the people that I talk to are not closed-minded about their stuff, because they'll try to help you out, and if something doesn't make sense, or if you're saying something, they'll kind of be like, "Oh, well, I don't know, man. You might want to check on that," or even help you kind of debunk stuff, or I heard this noise. Well, did you know that foxes make weird noises? Did it sound like this? And you're like, "Oh yeah, it did sound like that." Well, it might have been a fox, just. But then you get the people that are like, "Oh, well, so and so says this. Uh, Bigfoot can't turn into a tree stump, so you're wrong. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong because so and so says this." And my friend uh, learned about uh, how to track Bigfoot on the internet, and they took a course, so their answer is 100% correct, and nobody else's story is believable except for my friend's story. And it can be toxic and it can be good, but like I said, it just depends on the individual, and what kind of person you are. If you just gonna be part of a group and just gun ho part of whatever they say, you're gonna agree with them and attack everybody they attack. That's being closed minded. Even though you believe in Bigfoot, you're still conforming to what your friends' beliefs. You don't have your own beliefs anymore. So you just got to watch out for that stuff. It can be toxic, but it's like I said, it just depends on you. I mean, how you use it.
That's very true. A lot of people have asked that same question too, say the same insight. I do believe it's a bit of both. I do think that becomes a heavy influence. Going back to what I was saying about somebody who might have a lot of experience in the field or knows a lot of things because of what they've been told or read in a book, and they use that to their advantage, it becomes a problem. And I've witnessed it. I've been in the midst of it, of being attacked by people and people showing their true colors. So it ultimately, it's a factor, but it increases that value of what camps to look out for and what to be alert on. But I want to transition now into another topic, cryptid wise. And it's okay if you don't have an answer on it. It's for a lot of Bigfoot investigators. They also, and I'll get into this other part of the question. They don't really believe it because of the not just the name, but because of the fact being that it's 100% plausible for it not to make a lot of sense, considering the fact that we've seen it in movies before. But what is your overall opinion on the Dogman?
Well, the dog man, I've had some friends, close friends, and people that I know seen them. I mean, I haven't seen one, and if I believe them because they haven't really given me a reason not to. That I believe they've seen it. Now, I hope I never, ever, never, ever run into one because that just doesn't sound like something on my bucket list. I mean, if I do see one, I'd like to see it while I'm cruising. in a car, just kind of look at it, cruise by, and it had to be somewhere like on the other side of the United States, not somewhere near my house, not around the hood. But yeah, I think it's uh, maybe something sinister, maybe something really bad. I don't know. I mean, unless I've never heard nobody saying they saw somebody playing catch with a dog man or anything nice. People see them, and it may be just because you're seeing something that's supposed to exist. I mean, who knows, that Bigfoot that I saw scared the crap out of me, but he probably was just as scared when he told his friends, "Hey, man, I saw a big dog. Y'all not gonna believe this." And you know, it's probably traumatic for both of us. So I think it would have been like where we kind of both see each other and screaming and yeah. But yeah, I I think Dogman's something bad though. Just from what I'm hearing, and I've never heard anything positive.
I want to ask you this though. You talk about two forces scaring the crap out of each other. There's a video on YouTube. I'll recommend it to you. Guy's running through a woods, go through a trail, and he runs into a grizzly midway through. Both he and the grizzly scare the shit out of each other because of the reaction. But he's filming it. He gets freaked out by it. The grizzly goes one way, he goes the other way. So you talk about a reaction like that, and you talk about psychologically wise, animals' mindsets might be a bit either intelligent or duller compared to human beings, but I think it can go both ways because there are some really stupid humans in a good fashion, not in a negative fashion, but there's also some real intelligent humans too that use common sense properly. So it works both ways. One of the reasons why I asked this question, and it goes and pertains back to me interviewing several Bigfoot investigators who've been skeptical of the name Dogman. Do you think that this could be an aggressive Bigfoot? And it's just being considered Dogman because of maybe some of the features that it may look and possess. Might be like an adult loner Bigfoot that is a bit more aggressive, has a bit more hair, obviously more runny nails, and may look like it has fangs because of the way it sprouts. There's also the keys of the snout, too, in description. Could it be an aggressive Bigfoot?
So when Dogman first started coming around, or people started talking about it, I believe they may have been around for a long time, like the Squatches. I mean, you have old reports. You even have Egyptian, what's that, the Anubis
Yeah, the
stuff.
Anubis, the hieroglyphs of the Egyptian time.
So I believe that there might be something there as far as them existing, because I mean it's not something that someone just made up recently, like Slender Man or nothing, because there's no history of that. But there is history of Dogman. Um, so I think they've been around here for a while, and people are starting to see them, or maybe. But as far as it being a Bigfoot, I'm not too sure about that. Even though I was trying to make sense of it when I first started hearing about it. Me and a buddy of mine started talking about maybe there's a baboon type, um, with the face and the fangs. But I don't know. I just after a while, kind of thinking about it, I don't know. Maybe there's a baboon type, but I don't know. Maybe people are really seeing some sort of werewolf creature.
Do you think the name Dogman is appropriate for this particular cryptid?
No, I think maybe like because you hear like was it that movie Underworld? They call them lichens or something like that. Maybe something like that would sound better. I mean, Dogman kind of sounds like I don't know. He just doesn't sound appropriate to me.
Yeah, no, and that's another thing too. Recently, I've had a lot of people ask me how would I categorize the name Dogman, and I interviewed a couple of guys from Tennessee, and they talk about Cynocephalize, and that being the dog-headed creature, and Cynocephali necessarily that's diving into some crazy mythology too, where we as a person would have to really figure out how are we going to categorize this term, and that's been my biggest argument with a lot of people is that in order for a lot of people, I guess, to take the topic serious, they also have to effectuate the name because when you have a lot of recurring names such as Goatman, Lizardman, Gatorman, even names like that, people just think you're making shit up because of just the
Hmm.
idea of the name. Because like that's like in I hate to use it because I love them so much, but like Spider-Man or Batman from like Superman from like comics and stuff. We grew up on that. I know I grew up on comics, and I'm sure you did as well. And that's what we're familiarized with. So that's why not even when we think of Bigfoot, okay, well, Bigfoot kind of sounds idiotic in a way for a beginner because it's like, wow, big and a foot, like putting the two words together. But that's why I often tell people Sasquatch. It's the same thing,
Hmm.
but it sounds a bit. But even then, though, they'd be like, wow, that sounds retarded in a sense because of the idea, like sass, like sassy bitch or something like that. Yeah, no, that's why. But the name Dogman though, because I'll tell you one thing. Before all this Dogman craze, I remember I watched a video of a guy, and I'm pretty sure you had too, had his dog with his sweater over his head, and just had the guy with the hands eating the food to the dinner table. And that's what I remember Dogman from. And then I thought about Dogman like the Bigfoot or a creature. And I was like, wait a second, what? So that's what threw me off. But that's why I want to ask you too. Like, do you feel that like a lot of these names that are being brought up, like Goatman, Lizardman, or Gatorman, is an exaggeration, and perhaps maybe they're an actual cryptid? Maybe let's just say a Skinwalker or a Bigfoot, and it's just being misidentified.
Yeah, I think it kind of makes it a little goofy, but you got to think about it. What if you were the first one to see something that no one else has seen before? I mean, like if you saw like I don't know, a half jellyfish and a half man, you'd be like, "Hey, I saw a jelly man." It's kind of hard to come up unless you're a scientific person. You come up with some science name, but I don't even know how to say jellyfish in scientific name, but but you would say something
Me
like
neither.
that. But so yeah, I mean, it just kind of gives you an idea. I guess people are good at or just kind of saying what they're seeing and just chopping it up and making it simplifying it. I guess would be the. But like I said, that's what Dogman kind of threw me off at first. I was like, I was thinking about what you were talking about with the man with the sweater and eating cereal or whatever and making a big mess. The dog just licking everything up. But yeah, big like you said, Bigfoot makes it sound silly, and that's why it's hard to uh, people to take it serious. It's kind of comical. Because people make like like I said, I still get a hard time at work because for a long time nobody at work knew that because I work at a new shop now, and nobody knew, and so that's why I finally drove the Yeti up there to get some work done on it, and somebody asked one of my coworkers that knew me from another shop, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this guy saw Bigfoot a while back," and oh my God, the floodgates opened up. Before you know it, everybody was has something to say. Some people believe me and they're cool with it, and some people, but it doesn't bother me. I'm not so fragile that they hurt my feelings or whatever, and I'll even joke back, or and I always say, "Well, let's go." Anytime you want to go with me, we'll jump in the Yeti and drive off, and I can take you to a place where we'll hear some noises. And I've done that to one guy. I've taken him out, and he was making fun of me and saying stuff. And then when he heard all the yelling and screaming, it was funny because my cousin and Brandon walked off in the woods, and he's sitting there. We're sitting in the back of this truck in this dark area, and we're hearing some screaming, hollering going off. He's just like, "Bro, I know that's your cousin and that other dude. I know they're making that noise." And then they come back, and this noise is still going on. And he's like, all confused. I'm like, "That's not them, dude." And so he gets growled at. He walks off, and then go use the restroom or whatever. He comes running back, and he's like, "Hey man, give me one of those guns." I was like, "What? Why? What happened?" He goes, "There's something growling over there, dude." Like, "Oh, well, it's not Bigfoot because you don't believe in him, right?" Crazy stuff, man.
It is crazy to say the least, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are also like very like pro, like I wouldn't say pro kill, but like, well, no, I lied. There are people out there that are pro kill, and their instant reaction when they think of getting a gun, and they're thinking, you know what, let me go get my AR, and I'm gonna see if I can try to shoot one of these things and just put a couple holes in it. But these things got so much weight, mass, and protection. Um, I don't think it's the most brilliant idea. And personally, too, I believe that these things run in packs or tribes. And I know that once one goes down or is feared and intimidated or injured, that the others are going to come crawling. It's like anybody who gets hurt, and you know, like in the hood, like you say yourself, you're from the hood, you're guys, your squad, bro. Like, let me tell you something. I had the same thing where I grew up, and it's like, look, once you hurt one of us, you're gonna hit all of us. It's as simple as that. So it's like a code, basically, as to summarize it. But um, I just wanted to get your insight on all that because there's just so much discussion about it, and it's always good to listen to hear what other investigators out there, especially those, I mean, personally, I mean, tonight, you and me, we met to know each other really, I saw you from a group, and I reached out to you. So now we both know who we are, we both know what. We're on the same page with a lot of things. A lot of what you had answered to is 100% how I would go about it. And for you to have that encounter too, from what started off as just a pair of hands popping out of nowhere, and then you see these things coming, and you're seeing through binoculars, and you're looking at them through a field. It's like, wow, this thing is incredible. And I wanted to ask you too, man, like what is your initial goal down the road? What do you want to accomplish in this field?
Well, for me, it's 100% personal. I have no desire to prove its existence. I never gonna shoot one out of to prove it. The only way I would do that is if it was trying to eat me or if it was trying to hurt one of my boys. Like you said, we gotta stick together. Now, as long as it ain't doing anything threatening us, like if one just like ran across the street, I'm not gonna chase it down and try to murder it. Or if one came into camp, I'm not gonna just shoot it. I mean, it would have to be either, trying to harm somebody that I'm with or try to harm me. Uh, just, we, I just won't do it to prove it. I mean, I really don't care if the guy that works at the gas stations knows that Bigfoot's real. I'm not, because you think about to the people you're trying to prove it to, they probably wouldn't care anyway. It'd probably be like that Tic Tac thing that the the Air Force was showing, oh, UFOs are real. Here's the Tic Tac. How long did that last? That nobody even cares. You can even bring it up to someone and they'll be like, huh? They won't even know. So I don't think there's a I don't know. I just don't feel like me personally. I mean, if somebody wants to go shoot Bigfoot and prove that it exists, that's all on them. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you what to do. Do what you want to do. But as far as me, I'm not gonna do it. It's not it's not what I'm trying to do, and it's 100% personal. I do hang out with people that are researching and trying to prove its existence. I'm just out for the ride. To hang out with someone, make friends with people. I have people say, "Hey, let's go out to this spot." I'll go with them, but I mean, if they want to shoot it and I'm around, I probably try to talk them out of it. But if they do light them up, I'm probably going to be trying to get out of here as fast as I can. I'm not going to stick around. So if you're with me and you shoot Bigfoot and you turn around and you're wondering where I'm at, I'm probably leaving. So
Yeah, I can't say I blame you on that. By the way, Big Dog, we're getting close to the conclusion of the show. Just a couple more questions before we conclude, but please stay on the line. I just want to talk to you briefly afterwards.
cool.
All right, buddy. So, well, I'll tell you one thing. Um, Big Dog, you've had such an incredible backstory and a very interesting researcher and investigator as well. And I really wish you all the success in everything you do, investigating, getting your research out there, showing what you've come across that can encourage others and help others too. But I want to conclude on a notice here with you. What are some of your current projects right now? How we connected was obviously through a Facebook group, and you have a podcast or a show. Can you tell us a little about that and where people can contact you?
Okay. cool. So yeah, my little podcast is just called the Big Dog Random Show. Um, I've always had people tell me crazy stories. I'm kind of like one of those dudes that I could go sit down at the mall at a table, and probably about 10, 20 minutes later, there'll be some dude just come and sit next to me and tell me his life story, and I never even said a word. So I've had people tell me like paranormal stuff. I've had people tell me like, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff, and I was like, man, I need to do something with this. I should, you know, do a show or something. And so I talked about a couple experiences that I've had personally on the show, and then I was able to get people that would tell me their story, and I'd be like, hey, you wouldn't mind coming on, my podcast and tell me, what you just told me. And some people were like, yeah, man, cool, I'll do it. And then some people are like, nah, man, you can just tell my story or whatever, but I don't want to be on there. So not everybody's looking to get, any sort of recognition or trying to be famous for whatever happened. Or some people are ashamed of what happened. I mean, it's crazy. Some people talk about some of their experiences like it was bad or it was wrong or something. And so and a lot of times they feel better after telling me what happened, especially by my reaction. So I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. And they're like, really? You've heard this type of stuff before? And it's not all Bigfoot. Some of it's ghosts. Some of it's there's a guy that I had on. He was telling he's a researcher also that seemed to get some sort of crazy stories too, where this guy got smacked in the face by a puckwidgie while he was sleeping in his house. That's on one of the episodes. What happens is this guy has this big crazy tree in his property, and he goes out and he sees lights, or people see him walking around in the woods and they see a light following him around, and he doesn't believe the people that are telling him, and his wife takes a picture of him walking around, and sure there's a light right behind him like a orb. And so he cuts that big tree down, and I guess it was the Puckwedgie's house, because he said the dogs were freaking out one night, and then he woke up and smacked it right in the face, and it ran out. And he said it hit the fan on the way out of the house, and the door was wide open. It just ran out. So yeah, I get stories like that, and so yeah, it's Big Dog Random Show, and I'm doing another show with a buddy of mine. It's called Big Mysteries. It's just basically him telling me stories that I never heard before, and I'm just kind of reacting because we kind of got that little comical chemistry there. It's just kind of a fun show that we're doing, but so that one's Big Mysteries. And then if you want to contact me, it's the big dog underscore random underscore show at yahoo.com. I think that's the email I sent you.
That is, yes, it
Um,
is.
okay, so yeah, that's the stuff I've been working on, and yeah, I just want to get these stories out, and I got to get you on there uh, just to chop it up like we're doing now. But yeah,
I love to do it, and I just got done looking at your channel again because like I said, man, I really I like to reach out to investigators and newcomers really who aren't as big names in the community on their podcast, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be a big name to be a success. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I mean, it's always good to connect out to other people, and that's why I wanted to bring you on because you have a great personality and you have a very good tolerance with this matter, and you take it very seriously, and that's why I wanted to bring you on and just showcase what it should be all about. And I want to thank you again for coming on the show. But before we do sign off here, do you have any closing comments that you'd like to share for the audience?
yeah, man. If you had anything crazy or anything weird happen to you, just share it, because you're probably not alone. You don't have to be. Like I said, there's people that have been depressed about stuff. Freaked out. Nobody's ever gonna believe me, and they get to drinking or get to. That's it just depends on you how you take it. But yeah, just lots of people that had strange experiences, and it'll make you feel better to talk about it. And if you've never had anything crazy happen to you, don't clown on people that have. I mean, because they didn't want it. Some people, it was like an accident or whatever. Just there's no reason to be a jerk, and everybody just be cool with each other. We don't need. There's enough anger and hate and stuff going on in the world. We don't need no more. So, peace and love, y'all.
Amen to that. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I really have to say the same thing. But Big Dog, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you, and I want to bring you back in the future because you have such a great personality, like many people I've interviewed, and I think you'd be great on a roundtable discussion. I want to thank you again for coming on the show.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
I want to thank Big Dog again for coming on the show. I like his style, and I think a lot of what he has encountered is pretty organic, and at the same time, I also think a lot of his investigations are pretty cerebral. I really do like the interesting, in-depth explanation of things that he puts into the description when he's describing these Bigfoot encounters or these Bigfoot investigations. There's a lot of Bigfoot activity in Texas and New Mexico, and I really hope him and his team do find something down the roads. I know they've already found what they can find. They've all seen something. However, when it comes to the Bigfoot reports in New Mexico, something that we can get better clearance on, or even with Texas. I know I've interviewed various people from Texas, both past and present, and I can tell you for certainty that there is something in Texas. There's more than what you expect in Texas. What we're going to do now, however, is we're going to play two videos. Big Dog sent this to me, and I want you to get your guys' opinion on this. I'll give you my opinion on it at the end. But listen to these videos. You're going to hear these videos two different times. First time you're going to hear it originally, then you're going to hear it amplified audio. And tell me what you guys think. Yeah, these are pretty interesting pieces here. When you compare it to other animals in the area, me and Big Dog, we talked about this on the show. We also talked about it off the show, off the record. But to elaborate on something, we basically described about all these vocalizations of national animals in all these other areas. And coyote, or in general, any other mammal, a bear, a deer, a fox, while there is similar vocalizations, and I'll even throw you guys links to bear sounds, fox sounds, all in the description, so you can hear the difference. There is something about this that could make sense. I'm not saying that there's Bigfoot vocals in that background that we heard. They could be. It could be a totally different animal. However, I do think that they're creepy. It's very ominous that what we're hearing is very unfortunate and discouraging for many, but it is something that is part of research. What is it? Because, yeah, we could even play 1,000 vocalizations of zoological animals, but still, Might not even be it. It could be so similar. We know of Bigfoot mimicking. We know of certain ways they can get around the bush. But those are interesting pieces of audio and video, and Big Dog, I want to thank again for sharing that on the show. Now, before we conclude, just a few announcements. First announcement, as always, guys, if you want to get in contact with me, you're more than welcome to at beyondfringeofficial@outlook.com. I'm not using the venomousfringe@gmail.com anymore email account. That is now defunct. However, you could reach me at beyondfringeofficial@outlook.com. There is a link to it down below in the description box. And secondly, I would like for everybody to please take the warm welcome of checking out these content creators and what they do. Very good set of people here. Starting off, we have the crypto-punkinologist, Kenny Irish. Just had a new book come out called American Cryptids. We talk about it in an upcoming show. Very interesting fellow, and I recommend you take a look at his work. I'll leave a link to his materials down below. Also coming in here, we have the Cryptid Studies Institute, the Hendersons. I had interviewed them 2 years ago discussing LBL and other mysterious Kentucky phenomena. They just recently put up a new video with the Bell Witch. If you guys are interested in hearing some of the mysterious macabre phenomena that inflicts the Kentucky woods, please check out their content. If you guys are curious to hear another podcaster out in the world who wants to showcase the truth about Bigfoot, hop on over to Brian's show, Sasquatch Odyssey. Very interesting researcher and investigator and podcaster. I had the pleasure of also sitting down and talking with. And he's a very nice guy. I like what he's doing. I like where he's putting his work. And I think he has a great outlet for a lot of this. So please check him out, Sasquatch Odyssey. If you guys love honesty, true New Yorkers who are in this field investigating, doing the right thing, I want you guys to take a look at Mr. Brian Bowden, no boo boo me, or however you want to go about it, because he is the man inside the Goblin universe. Brian Bowden I've had on my show in the past with Al Santariga, who was also on my show just recently, and he has a great setup, Brian. I want you guys to go take a look at what he's got cooking in the Brooklyn oven, because he is a pretty damn good dude. Check him out, Brian Bowden. His links down below. And then, if you guys are curious even more, I had a pleasure of also speaking with Blake Grusher from the Lost Cryptids Conservatory. Very nice individual, and I like what Blake is cooking in the oven as well. If you guys want to take a look at a lot of his analysis with his team when it comes to the truth about cryptozoology and bringing on other investigators like my show and doing the in-depth discussions, he is another good voice to listen to along with his research team. And, of course, we cannot go without concluding here, last but not least, if you guys would like to take a look at Big Dog's random show. Take a look at Big Dog's random show. Leave a link to his podcast down below. He's on Anchor. And if you guys are interested, feel free to, as always, to take a look at all of these content creators. Ladies and gentlemen, please. I consider these people. They're very good individuals. I left out a few names, however, those being Christian and Tiny from the American Cryptic Paranormal Society. That Daniel Benoit from the East Coast Bigfoot Research Organization. And we had great conversations together, him and I. Another good fellow. And, of course, Mr. Michael Moran of the Cryptid Squad on Facebook. And everybody else, if you all are a YouTube content creator in cryptid and paranormal, if you would like to share your content, if you would like to come on and also promote yourself, you're more than welcome to here at the Fringe family. One final announcement tonight, guys. As you know, I made an announcement last week discussing what's going to happen with the show. We're going to be moving to a new outlet, Spreaker, pretty soon. I'll still be on YouTube. I'm going to figure out a way of kind of putting, maybe I might do full clips, maybe I might do full interviews, but have it censored, or more importantly, put it in variety of clips. Spreaker is a free outlet. All you got to do is create an account to listen to your podcast or whoever you want to listen to. We also, with Spreaker, they have a good deal where you can promote your podcast and put it on other outlets like Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio. So we're going to see how this goes. I know I did it with Venomous Fringe last time, but I wasn't really proud of it. So I really want to do something a little different this time with it. So folks, we're going to be heading to Spreaker pretty soon. And then to conclude everything, we have a very special gift here. We have Patreon. Patreon, we have a special tier. It's the only tier we're doing for the show, guys, is a $5 Golden Fringeaholic tier. You're going to get the following. You're going to get VIP access to the channel. You're going to also get codes, coupon codes from your favorite brand, your favorite shop, and also too giveaways, Bigfoot cryptid related of any type. You're going to be able to engage with me in a live Q&A, whether it's through Google Meet or whether it's through phone. We'll sit together for anybody. We're going to do a live team Golden Tier Fringeaholic Q&A with those who subscribe to it, as well as also be honored to join us on our uncensored episodes, uncensored interviews. We're also going to do a live Q&A called the Uncensored Roundtable, where we sit down and we discuss anything cryptid, the good, the bad, the ugly. So folks, line up and gear up for that. And with that announcement being said, folks, thank you for listening in. We will see you next time. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.